Right, so this case has stayed on my mind. Honestly, I'm disturbed by it. I can't stop thinking about it all, and something about it just feels off. It feels unfair. And the truth is, we have every right to be upset about the completely different outcomes here. One woman punished harshly for words online, a politician excused for openly miming violence in public. Lucy Connolly was a childminder who made a reckless post online in the aftermath of the Southport killings. Her tweet was revolting, fair enough. She said she didn't care if hotels housing asylum seekers were set on fire. It was inflammatory. Was it causal to the fact that people tried to start some fires? I am not convinced. Regardless, she deleted it a few hours later, but by then it had already gone viral and her fate was sealed, so to speak. Contrast that with the case of Ricky Jones, a Labour councillor, at an anti-racism rally in East London, not hidden away behind a screen but standing before a crowd. Jones denounced his political opponents, the far right, as disgusting Nazis, fascists, but he went further. He mimed a throat-slitting gesture across his neck and declared, "We need to cut all their throats." On paper, the charges are different. Lucy's was racial incitement, strict liability, apparently little wriggle room. Jones's was encouraging violent disorder. Jury must be convinced of intent. But that distinction doesn't matter to the average person watching. What they see is a wife and a mother treated as an example, maybe because she's connected to a Tory MP. A Labour councillor excused and his words explained away as a metaphor or context. Yes, legally, because that's what some people keep talking about, everything was done legally fine. But again, I think there's some question marks there also. But in any case, there has to be more than this. There has to be consistency. And what the public sees right now is inconsistency. When people talk about a two-tier justice system, they don't always mean judges secretly plotting one outcome for the left and another for the right, or one for ethnic minorities and another one for white people. They mean something a little bit more subtle and in a way more corrosive, that the law, while technically impartial, is applied with different levels of zeal and severity depending on who you are, what you say, which tribe you belong to. And that's why the cases of Lucy Connolly and Ricky Jones have struck a nerve. Lucy Connolly's punishment for words that she deleted was not just a prison sentence, it was symbolic. She was made into an example. This is what drives the anger, and this is what makes people conclude the law is not neutral, the law is absolutely political. Now another thing, and this is important, I am quite frankly amazed at the gaslighting. So people are trying to pretend that Lucy Connolly's statement was racist or had racial undertones, but Ricky Jones's didn't. For example, one lawyer, Peter Stringfellow, he said, both Jones and Connolly said pretty unpleasant things. If you look at the Connolly case, her intention is of a racial nature. So the suggestion is that Lucy's outburst was racist, whereas Ricky Jones's wasn't. But I'm not buying it, because when Ricky Jones stood and said, we need to cut the throats of the far right, Nazi fascists, who did he mean exactly? Was he picturing a group of Ethiopians, Bangladeshis, Jamaicans? Of course not. Nobody listening thought that. Everyone knew what image was being invoked, and it was the same one the media itself has hammered into the public imagination for years. White faces, white working class men, white blokes wrapped in the St. George's flag or the Union Jack. Every single time the far right is covered in the press, the images are the same. So when Jones says cut their throats, the group in question is racialized whether people or the courts want to admit it or not. But the reality is that in Britain today, far right has become shorthand for white. Everyone knows this. So Lucy Connolly's words are punished because they target minorities. Jones's are excused because technically he didn't. So again, we see that one group is protected and the other is not. Column is surprised. That's why the public feels the system is unfair, because it is unfair. The law might draw neat lines on paper, but ordinary people can see through it. They can see that the standard changes depending on who the target is, and that is not justice. There's hypocrisy there. When Ricky Jones was tried for his throat-slitting remarks, what did he say? Oh, I made those remarks in the heat of the moment. You know, I didn't literally mean it. I didn't literally mean to cut people's throats. He was caught up in anger at a rally. The words spilled out, and they shouldn't be taken as a real call to violence. The jury accepted the argument almost instantly. In less than half an hour, Jones was cleared. Lucy Connolly said much of the same thing about her own words. Her tweet was also written in the heat of the moment. She deleted it a few hours, which is exactly what people do when they regret something they've said. Unlike Jones, the defense carried no weight. She was arrested, denied bail, kept in custody, ultimately handed a 31-month sentence. And the denial of bail is a crucial part of this story as well. Lucy was a first-time offender and a mother. By all accounts, a very low risk to the public. Yet she was remanded in custody immediately. That meant she was locked up months before any trial could take place. This changed everything, because when you are sitting in a cell awaiting trial, facing months away from your child with no guarantee of release, the pressure to plead guilty becomes overwhelming. And this is why it's fair to question the legality of it all. Why was she denied bail? It's a genuine question. Also, we've got lawyers telling us that if there's any two-tiered justice system in Britain, it's one that historically hasn't favoured ethnic minorities. And they claim that Ricky Jones's acquittal is proof that the system works. One lawyer said, the fact that a black man at a protest can receive a fair trial and be acquitted should be seen not as an injustice, but as proof that the system can still get it right. Do you see what's happening here? Outcomes in a court of law are supposed to be based on the individual case. What this person said, what this person meant, what this person did. That's the foundation of impartial justice. But the moment you start dragging in history, oh, the system used to be against minorities, you're smuggling in politics and sociology into what should be a question of law alone. And if that's the case, how can you possibly deny accusations of a two-tiered system? You're openly saying that verdicts aren't just about individuals, they're about the group they belong to. And another thing, Ricky Jones was allowed to put his lived experience in front of a jury. He told them how he'd been racially abused at a school, forced to do PE in his underpants, spat on, humiliated. He said he's neurodivergent. Sometimes that makes him emotional and likely to say things he doesn't mean. That narrative helped to humanize him. It gave context. It made the jury sympathetic. What about Lucy Connolly's lived experience? She had lost a son. She was reacting to the brutal stabbing of 3 babies, 3 little girls. I've also faced racism in my life, but I would never use that as an excuse to spit out disgusting words or to call for violence. People who lean on, oh, I face racism to excuse vile behavior, they're weak and pathetic. It's a cop-out. How a man like that ended up in public office, representing people, is bewildering. Now compare that with Lucy. I may not agree with her words, but I understand the anger. I understand the pain because I'm a mother. And motherhood changes how you feel when you hear about crimes against children. Before I was a mother, stories like Southport were horrific. But after becoming one, they don't just disturb you, they shake you to your soul. And Lucy isn't just any mother. She's a mother who had already lost a child. Imagine carrying that grief and then watching 3 little girls stabbed to death. Of course she lashed out. Of course she spoke in rage. It doesn't make her words right, it makes her human. I just hate everything about these cases. But my one consolation is, when Lucy gets out, which will be soon, she won't be alone. She will have so much support waiting for her. And honestly, she deserves it. She deserves opportunities. She deserves backing. She deserves to rebuild her life. If there's any justice left outside the courtroom, it will be in the fact that people will rally around her. Because let's be clear, a lot of people owe her an apology. They owe her for the way she was vilified. They owe her for the way she was treated as an example to be crushed. Justice cannot survive double standards. The law shouldn't be used as a weapon. Courts are supposed to rise above politics. Otherwise, people start seeing it all as rigged. And when people believe that the system is rigged, they no longer feel bound to respect it. And that certainly is a dangerous road to chaos.